Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the updated Hellfire Armaments guide. In this video, you will find everything you need in order to forge the Hellfire Armaments, which includes the Hellfire Ring and Hellfire Amulet. This information is current as of version 2.1 of Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls. However, some of the information comes from the 2.1 public test realm, so there may be some changes from here to live. First things first, let's look at why you may actually want to craft one of these items and go through the trouble of farming the gear that we're about to look into. One of the two rewards that you're going to get from this is going to be the Hellfire Ring. This is the new version of the Hellfire Ring. You can see it comes with two predetermined stats, one which is bonus experience by 45%, and the other is a chance on hit to engulf the ground in lava, which does 200% weapon damage per second for 6 seconds. It also has 5 random magic properties. In this video, you can see how it compares to the previous Hellfire Ring from the original Diablo 3 prior to Reaper of Souls. The old one provided less experience and provided a chance to do an explosive ball of damage, which was a set amount of damage, which made it very powerful for low-level characters. The new Hellfire Ring on the left is a decent ring even for higher-level characters. However, there are some better rings out there that have better legendary affixes, so you'll want to consider that when making this item. The Hellfire Ring is more suited for trying to level up alternate characters. So if there's characters that you don't have at 70 yet, or maybe you're trying to farm some Paragon experience, the Hellfire Ring will be great for that, and it is fairly useful for that. But if you're trying for survivability, or if you're trying for high-end Torment farming, then you may want to consider going with a different ring. While the Hellfire Ring is a nice item, the real reason you're going to be farming these items is to create yourself a Hellfire Amulet. The Hellfire Amulet will be for many classes a best-in-slot type item. It will of course be based on your character and your build, how well this will be useful for you. The Hellfire Amulet will provide you with one of your primary stats, either Dexterity, Strength, or Intelligence. It will also provide you with 4 random properties. The big thing about this item, though, is that it will provide you a random class passive. The Hellfire Amulet can give you, for free, one of the passives of your class. As you can see here, I have one that contains Cull the Weak, and I have one that contains Grenadier. I can go into my build and essentially remove those from my build if I were using them. So I have Cull the Weak, I could remove this and pick any other passive. So you are basically given 5 passives instead of the standard 4. This makes it very powerful and can really enhance certain builds. The first thing you'll need to do is collect 4 keys. Each of these 4 keys comes from each of the 4 primary acts, excluding Act 5. Contained within each act is a Keywarden that you will need to kill in order to obtain these keys. Before we begin, you may want to know what kind of drop rate you should expect. First and foremost, you'll need to be in at least Torment 1 or higher. Each level of Torment beyond 1 will increase the drop rate roughly about 5%. The drop rate starts at Torment 1 at 25% and ends at Torment 6 at 50%. So unlike the previous Hellfire Armaments, you are not guaranteed a drop of either rings or special crafting ingredients that you're going to need throughout this tutorial. Keep in mind that for the new Hellfire Ring and the new Hellfire Amulet, you will need a character that is at least level 61. Starting off with the Key of Bones. The Key of Bones drops in Act 1, in the Fields of Misery. Inside the Fields of Misery, you will be looking for Odeg, the evasive Khazra Brute. Odeg is enchanted with Jailer and Molten, as well as a knockback which supplements his range style. Typically, Odeg is not that difficult. However, during the fight, he can fire out several fireballs that are very powerful and will destroy most classes with low armor or resistances, so while you're fighting him, you'll want to be mindful of that. After you've toppled Odeg, you'll want to head to Act 2 and go to the Dalgar Oasis. Here you're fighting Sokar, the wielder of the Restless Wind. Sokar is an elite version of a whirling dervish, and he has the powers of such, including a whirlwind which reflects projectiles naturally. He also comes with a slow projectile field, as well as a mortar affix, meaning it can be very difficult to hit him at ranged. It's made worse by the dampening missile affix and his ability to reflect them, as he can send out multiple mortars and reflect your own projectiles all at the same time. His mortar affix also appears to be upgraded from the standard mortar affix, as it can fire off many projectiles simultaneously. To add to this fight, he is also lightning enchanted, making it a little difficult for melee characters to get into the mix as well. For your efforts, Sokar will drop the Key of Gluttony. After besting Sokar in combat, you'll want to head to Act III, this time to the Stone Fort waypoint. You'll be looking for Zarith, the Tormentor of the Damned. Zarith is an illusionist, meaning he can spawn multiple copies of himself, and these copies can cast his special abilities as well. Zarith's primary ability is to drop frozen corpses from the sky, essentially doing something akin to Frost Nova, but it can also be quite damaging. It is especially dangerous when his clones are up, as multiple copies of this corpse rain can spawn on top of each other to do a lot of damage. Aside from that, Zarith has a teleport move, which can make it difficult to chase him, as the frozen corpse rain will also create slow fields on the ground. Thankfully, Zarith has been toned down from his previous incarnations, and shouldn't pose too much of a challenge for a ready adventurer. For your efforts, Zarith will drop the Key of War. Now it is time to move on to the final act, Act IV, and you'll be moving to the Silver Spire Level 1. Here, you will be fighting Nekarat, the Seething Chaos. The important thing about fighting Nekarat is not necessarily the Keywarden himself, it is the enemies that he comes with. If you're lucky enough to find him alone, the fight should go fairly easily. However, he can be troublesome if he is surrounded by corrupted angels, or in general any other creatures that might accompany him in Act IV. Corrupted angels especially can be difficult due to their high resistances to single types of elements. Succubi can also make the fight more difficult than it needs to be due to their ability to cause you to take more damage as well. On his own, Nekarat is fairly strong, and he only really comes with two special abilities that you have to be aware of. One is a melee range AoE Flame Strike. This Flame Strike is a damage over time ability, so if you're hit by it and you notice your health dropping, you may want to recover or use a defensive ability if you think you might be getting close to dying. The second ability is a charge ability similar to the Monk's Tempest Rush, in which he will charge forward in an attempt to close the distance between you and him. Should your luck hold out, defeating Nekarat will grant you the Key of Evil. It is at this point that you should find the Infernal Machine Plans, which is what you will need to craft the keys that you've been farming into a useful item. The Infernal Machine Plan's drop rate is high, if not 100%, and it should drop on your first kill of Nekarat. It is important to note that all of the Keywardens have two loot tables for the keys. You have the primary loot tables, which will drop the keys that I've mentioned already. But then there is a second table that has a chance to drop any key from any other Keywarden. This second drop will not interfere with the first, so it is entirely possible to kill a Keywarden and have that Keywarden drop not only his key, but the key of another Warden. If you see the key from a different Warden, it doesn't mean that it interfered with the drop of the first. You're going to want to create these 4 Infernal Machines in order to grab 4 new materials in order to create either your Hellfire Ring or your Hellfire Amulet. The drop rates for these materials, or organs, is the same as the drop rate for the keys that the Keywardens had. The difference here is that as of 2.1, the drop rate for the organs in the Infernal Machine realms is equal across your party, meaning that if it drops for one person in your party, it will drop for all of you. This does not necessarily mean that your chances of getting an organ is increased if you're in a larger group. A group of 4 does not mean you have 4 times the chance of finding an organ. But it does mean that if the chance is good and you're fighting it in a group, then you don't have to worry about other people missing out. All of you will get an organ if that organ decides to drop. So you can look at it as having a 50% chance of an organ dropping at Torment 6 for your entire party. Unlike the previous Infernal machine, which you crafted and it opened up a random portal, you now have a choice of 4 Infernal machines. You will take the 4 keys that you have obtained from the 4 Keywardens, and you will use them all to create either an Infernal machine of bones, an Infernal machine of war, an Infernal machine of gluttony, or an Infernal machine of evil. In this way, you have complete control over which portal you open when you need it, so you don't have to sit in a game and open all 4 portals at once in order to get to the one you want. This also means you may want to coordinate with team members if you are doing this in a group. Speaking of groups, this next part is highly advised. The Keywardens themselves are fairly easy. However, the next fights, the Uber fights, are a combination of 2 bosses that have had their stats greatly increased. While any one of these bosses may not provide too much of a challenge for most veteran players, 2 at once can certainly be an issue, especially since some of the abilities have been upgraded or modified in some way. Let's go over each of the Infernal machines one by one, in order as they're listed on the crafting list. First Infernal machine is the Machine of Bones, which will take you to the Realm of Discord. Here you will be fighting copies of Leoric and Magda. The trickiest part of this fight is that both Leoric and Magda like to spawn adds. The downside is that Magda has been upgraded in order to spawn arcane beams. Now, if you have an amulet which absorbs arcane damage, this will not be a threat, and you shouldn't have to worry. While it might seem advantageous to focus down Magda first, the problem with Magda is that she has a shield which she spawns every time she loses 25% of her health. This makes Magda tougher to kill, as you'll constantly have to drop from her to her adds and still avoid her beams as well as Leoric's whirlwinds. It is suggested to take out Leoric first, as he has low hit points, and you'll be able to take out both his high damage and his adds all at the same time, allowing you to focus on Magda. Magda's projectiles are fairly slow, which means you should be able to avoid anything she can push out while working on King Leoric. After you've bested both Magda and Leoric, you will be granted Leoric's Regret. The second machine is the Infernal Machine of Gluttony, which will take you to the Realm of Chaos. In this realm you will be fighting duplicates of Gom and Rakanoth. Gom is as straightforward as he's ever been. He will simply attack you while forming clouds of poison gas, as well as dropping slimes that will try to attack you during the fight. Rakanoth also comes with some adds of his own, meaning that killing either one will make the fight substantially easier. It is recommended to kill Gom first, as Gom, as he is left unchecked, will fill the room with a poison gas, making it very difficult to find a safe spot. Taking out Gom will give you plenty of breathing room, so to speak, in order to worry about dealing with Rakanoth. Defeating both Gom and Rakanoth will grant you the Vial of Putridness. The Infernal Machine of War will take you to the Realm of Turmoil. This one can be fairly difficult for some classes and some builds. This one has you fighting a clone of the Siegebreaker Assault Beast and Zoltan Kuhl. The good news is that in this fight, Siegebreaker does not have his adds that come into his fight. You nearly have to deal with him and Zoltan Kuhl. The downside is that Siegebreaker has his reflect damage mechanic as he has it in the normal game, which will return a percentage of the damage you do, unlike normal monsters which only reflect a flat amount. It is for this reason, also for the fact that Zoltan Kuhl has many abilities that can hinder your fight, that you deal with Zoltan Kuhl first and foremost during this encounter. If you can, you will want at least one person to try and separate the Siegebreaker Assault Beast from Zoltan Kuhl, as dealing with both of them at the same time can be quite difficult. Once you've separated Siegebreaker Assault Beast from Zoltan Kuhl, you can focus him down. You'll want to be aware of his tornadoes, which can do a lot of damage, and his slow time bubbles, which can prevent you from running away. The biggest threat is being caught in one of his slow time bubbles and having a fireball head your way, as the fireball can be a one-hit kill for classes with lower resistances or armor. As usual, Zoltan will teleport around the room to make killing him difficult, but once Zoltan is dead, you can focus on the Siegebreaker Assault Beast without any trouble. You will only have to worry about his reflect damage mechanic, so you may want to make sure that during this fight you have some kind of healing capabilities, either through your abilities or through your gear. Once you've completed this realm, you will be rewarded the Idol of Terror. Lastly, and most certainly not least, is the Infernal Machine of Evil, which will take you to the realm of Fright. The Infernal Machine of Evil is a new fight added to Reaper of Souls. The other machines and fights are mostly as they were before, a few upgraded mechanics. This one is entirely new. The Realm of Fright will have you fighting Uber Diablo. While this might not seem like a problem, Uber Diablo comes with some fairly nasty abilities. You will never be shifted into the Shadow Realm, as the fight takes place entirely in the Shadow Realm. So once you fight Diablo and kill him, that is all you have to do. However, during this fight, Diablo will summon allies of all the previous bosses that you fought in the other realms. When Diablo loses 25% health, he will summon a random boss. You will want to kill this boss as quickly as possible. Each boss will have their special abilities, which means if you get Siegebreaker Assault Beast, he will have his reflect damage. If you get Zoltan, he will have all of his abilities as well. The reason you want to kill the secondary boss rather than burning down Diablo is that he will spawn yet another boss at 50% health. You can have Diablo and 2 other bosses up at once. The first summon boss will not despawn. So every time you hit 25% health, you want to do your best to try and not do damage to Diablo. Just like the fight with Zoltan and Siegebreaker, it would be advantageous to move Diablo away from the second boss so that allies can do damage to the second boss while Diablo is moved away and left on his own. Once Diablo is down to 25% health, he does something slightly different. Rather than summoning a new boss, Diablo will split himself into 3 clones. Each of these 3 clones has the same abilities as Diablo, and all 3 of them will have to be killed in order to win. There isn't one true Diablo, all 3 of them are Diablo, and all 3 of them must be killed. In this fight, Diablo retains all of his abilities he has in the standard fight, which includes the Shadow Prisons, his Lightning Breath attack, and his Fireballs, which leave a large AoE. Aside from the extra bosses, there should be no other mechanics that you have to worry about. However, be advised that this fight is certainly the toughest of the 4. Should you triumph over Uber Diablo, you will possibly be granted the Heart of Evil. Now that you have all the organs you need, you now need to grab the patterns to craft the Hellfire Ring and Hellfire Amulet. You do that much like the last time, where you come here to Act II and then go to the hidden camp. Here you will talk to Squirt the Peddler. Go to the Miscellaneous tab. Now, unfortunately, due to a bug on the current PTR, I can't show you the ring and the amulet next to each other, but you can see here under Squirt's inventory is the Hellfire Ring, which sells for 5 million gold. And here you can see the Hellfire Amulet, which also sells for 5 million gold. Keep in mind, for both of these patterns, you will need a level 12 jeweler. Once you've obtained both patterns, you'll of course go to the jeweler and simply right-click on the design to have him learn it. And you will be able to see both Hellfire Rings and Amulets in his list. Here you'll notice that the new Hellfire Ring is a smart loot drop, as opposed to the old Hellfire Ring, which was divided into 4 categories of intelligence, strength, dex, and vitality. So now, if you want a ring of a particular type for a specific hero, you're going to want to make sure that you forge the ring on the type of hero that you want it. So if you want it to match for barbarians and crusaders, you're going to want to be on one of those 2 characters in order to get strength. Likewise for dexterity and intelligence using classes. You can see that the new Hellfire Ring will cost you 1 of each of the 4 organs and 50,000 gold. By contrast, you can see here that the Hellfire Amulet is divided into primary stats, int, strength, and dexterity. There is not one for vitality, although vitality can still roll on them. You will see that it contains 1 of the primary stats, a random passive, and 4 other properties. This is the important part. Since it rolls a random class passive, you'll want to make sure that you're on the class that you want the amulet for anyway. So make sure you're on the class that the amulet will be made for. And you will notice that it costs 1 of each of the organs, and it has a cost of 10 Forgotten Souls. 50,000 gold, just like the ring. So the increased price will be in Forgotten Souls, meaning you will have to farm quite a few legendaries to make more than one. And as you can see now that I've crafted one, my Hellfire Amulet was crafted just for my Demon Hunter, containing the Grenadier passive. If I try to create one with Intelligence while still on my Demon Hunter, we will see that it contains Intelligence, but it still contains a passive for the Demon Hunter. You will want to be aware of this, as you don't want to craft one with the wrong primary stat. The good news is that you can reforge the Hellfire Amulet, and it does not cost you any gems. It will simply cost you Arcane Dust, 5, Veiled Crystals, 11, and 1 Forgotten Soul in order to change it back. Alongside with your primary stats, you're going to want to make sure that your new amulet also has a socket. So you're not going to want to reforge the primary stat. You're going to want to get yourself a socket so that you can put a legendary gem inside of your legendary amulet. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our guide for the new Hellfire Armaments and the Keywardens. Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything, but if I have, or if you have any questions or comments in general, please leave them in the comments section below, and I will try to address one each as I can. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.